Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ad Talk. This is episode 27, and this episode is going to be so much fun because we have seen insane stats for one of our clients lately, and we've got Matthew here. What's up, Matthew? Good to see you.
What's up, Caleb? Good to be back.
Yeah. Matthew has been taking charge of this client, and he's the lead strategist on this client. And the numbers that they are seeing are insane. So we want to do a case study here so that all of our AdClass and Ad Talk listeners get some value and can start to learn from what's actually working out there in the marketplace right now. So these numbers that we're going to say, they're going to sound shocking, but they are real, I promise. And we'll get into them. But a company came to us. They are a restaurant POS system, and literally went from wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not an exaggeration. When I saw these numbers, I actually thought that they were fake. They were so bad. But just hundreds of thousands of dollars of ad waste to a point now where we are on track for a 28x ROAS, a 28x return on the money that they're putting in. And it's been an incredible journey with them. Again, Matthew's crushed it. Dylan is the performance marketing media buyer on the account, and D Money's just crushing it. And it's just been a really, really cool thing to watch these guys go from nothing working, not even having a single paid customer from ads, and to a point now where it's like just, the floodgates are open, right? So I think the first question I have for you, Matthew, is when a client like this comes to us, and you start looking at what's going on, and you see these, like, the hundreds of thousands of dollars of waste. What's the biggest mistake right off the get-go that you caught here that you just are like, okay, like this, we've got to fix this thing right away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the biggest mistake is working with the AdClass. Am I right?
Hey.
Hey. Sorry. I call myself the corniest man alive at work, and that's a little taste.
I'm the one that said A, so I don't know. I might take the crown for that.
We can
so.
be joint corn. I don't know. Okay, so getting back to the question, which is a very good question because these numbers were accurate. This audit took place between January 2022 and just until the end of October 2024. So, like 2.5 calendar years. They spent $340,000 on ads.
That'll
And
buy you a nice little single family home these days.
That would do. It might even buy you a garage in San Francisco. I don't know. Become the next Apple. But they didn't see a single lead from those 2.5 years come through and close because of an ad, which that speaks, like, one, at least they, believe in the power of advertising in a way. But two, like, there is something like fundamentally wrong in what is happening. So one of the biggest things that I saw is a lack of a funnel, in a sense. So they had multiple different landing pages that they were sending traffic to, but with really low intent on the landing pages. So they were sending them to their homepage. They were sending them to like a Facebook like post, like really random places without much intent. So the ads weren't the problem, really. Like, they had some really good ads, like in terms of the creative. There were some ones that I've used as inspiration for new creative, which has been really fun to use because it's fun to show them, hey, you guys had good ideas, and we definitely have a place for that. But we've put them into a funnel, which is nurturing the leads and also just like capitalizing on intent. So we're putting them to a landing page with an opt-in lead saying, if you want to see the free training on how you can save X number of dollars a month for your restaurant, like, click below, fill in the form, and watch the training. They're able to get through, schedule a call. It's just very intentional and very focused. And the big thing that they tried so many different things. Like, that 340,000 isn't just on one thing. It's probably on like 50 things, and that spend was just kind of shotgun, like, scattered over a lot of different ideas, and none of them had a funnel. It was all just like random landing pages, and the lead would get onto these pages and not know what they should be doing next.
Right.
And that was a big problem. The second biggest problem was they were using meta lead forms as the vast majority of like how they were getting their leads to sign up. So
Uh,
meta lead forms have a good place in the right funnel, but I feel like if you're trying to really focus in on your ideal client profile, they have not been the most successful like method to have lead generation.
yeah.
They were bringing in tons of volume, and the vast majority, well, evidenced by the fact they didn't actually close a paid lead, showed that the quality was just not there. And so we're putting them through a HubSpot form. They're all on HubSpot. Um, this isn't a shout out to HubSpot, but it's just just happens to be the CRM they're using, and that allows us to take in much better information and allows us to have much better data to base our next strategic points on. So those are kind of the two biggest things: is like where you're sending them and how you're collecting data. Is probably the
Yeah.
two biggest lesson points from that.
Cool. Yeah, I think so many people, they when they're getting started with ads, and this is obviously even for larger companies like this, right, that have larger budgets, 300, almost 350 grand here that got spent, is people initially start looking at the wrong metrics. They're looking at like,
Mm,
okay, we're spending the money, we're getting the leads in, right? Like, and that's why a lot of agencies can hide behind some of these metrics. Like a lot of times we'll have a person come to us and they'll have come off of a horrible experience with the previous agency, and it's because a lot of times of things like this where the agency has been reporting on metrics and KPIs that really don't matter too much. You know what I mean? So things like, hey, we're getting you lots of leads, right? You guys are paying this, and we're getting all these leads in from these Facebook lead forms, and you can kind of
mm,
get fooled by that early like feeling of success in a way, because it's like, well, something's happening here, we're getting momentum, but then you kind of go on further down the road and you realize those leads aren't buying anything. They're not really turning into sales. And now we've got all these leads that have submitted this thing. And like, it doesn't really benefit the business, to be honest with you, in
mm,
most scenarios like that. And so it's just kind of crazy to see like that was the story here too. So, okay. So you got off of Facebook lead forms, you started to build some more dedicated landing pages. What about
mm.
the ad account specifically? Was there anything with like the campaign structure or how they had kind of built out the campaigns themselves? Obviously, you had the lead form campaigns in there, but you said they had tried other things. What are some of the things that you feel like you implemented that were working really well?
So a lot of it was really formalizing the infrastructure of how you test, honestly, and understanding, how ad set budget optimization works, optimization down funnel, that sort of thing. Everything was so top of funnel. I feel like, which again, top of funnel has its place, but I'm looking at one previous campaign that they had running, which spent 130,000 and brought in 990 leads. That lead cost is 130 bucks. That's
Yeah,
pretty good. That's not bad.
yeah,
We've had weeks where we've been at 130, 140, depending on whether it's Christmas.
yeah,
Um, so on the face of it, like you were saying, those vanity metrics, they can come away from that and be like, well, we got $130 cost per lead, but what to show for it? So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just sorry. Did you want to say something?
Well, the other thing I was just thinking of there too is like for someone listening that might be like hearing $130 per lead too, it's also like the thing to consider there is it's all relative based on how much you've put that lead through, right? Because like if it's
Hmm.
just a simple like lead magnet where you're like, hey, I'm giving you away this free thing, you might be able to get $5 leads there. But if you're putting them through an application or some sort of content first, right, like that starts to go up. And so yeah,
Hmm.
just one thing that came to mind, because there might be someone that's like, oh, 130, that kind of sounds pricey, you know what I mean, for a lead.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's all relative. I mean, I've got people who, if they could get 130 a lead, then they'd start kissing my feet or something. So uh, other ones, if I took them at $130 leads, I'd be fired. So it's all relative.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's good context. So I think because they were so scattershot and because it was very top of funnel focused, there was also a lack of structure in terms of understanding how to improve results, if that makes sense. So I'm thinking, how do you test out and know what is working? Is it the creative? Is it the audience? Is it the copy? Is it the landing page?
mm,
Um, there was no structure in the campaigns or the ad sets which told us that they had thought through how to understand results in a sense,
Mm,
in terms of like previous media buyers or agencies. So one of the first things we did was, because we were, relatively starting fresh, because there wasn't any previous winners in the account, was okay, let's just get some simple, like, different audiences up, get some different creatives up, and segment really strongly so we understand, well, this ad set is doing really well, and it's also got the same creative that's in this one that's also doing well. Let's put the creative with the winning audience together, see what
yeah,
happens.
yeah,
And just starting from like a building block scenario of how to understand what is working in an account, and
hmm,
not just sort of like throwing money out there and hoping something comes back and then
right,
not being able to learn from it. That's
right.
key.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that's huge. That's really, really huge. I'm also interested in the creative aspect as well, like what you guys have seen
Mm.
working. Because you mentioned how you guys have focused heavily on the like on the restaurant kind of like niche, right? Like that's where the customers were coming from. We kind of want to continue to focus in on restaurant owners.
Mhm.
So how did that make the creative change at all?
Oh yeah, they were very graphic heavy.
Okay.
Um, and again, I don't want people to hear this be like, turn off graphics. That has its place in an account which has got some creative diversity in it. So
Mhm.
um, they were almost being like too specific in their graphics and not value giving enough.
Okay.
So I feel like there was a lot of graphics in there that were speaking to one person maybe, and not
Yeah.
actually trying to like speak to pain points that could be applied to a multiple range of different restaurants. So we definitely diversified the messaging. We obviously got some video ads in there very quickly. Wrote up some really good scripts, and honestly, like, one of the first scripts that we wrote is still leading to multiple sales a week at this point,
Let's go.
which is incredible. And that came from really good conversations with the sales team of, when you're on a call with a lead, what are they saying? Like, why are they closing or why are they not closing?
Mm,
Get that information, and then let's put it on the front so we can do some objection handling, rather than, putting this broad message or this super specific message in, and then finding that you're doing all the objection handling at the lead close or set level, that kind of stuff.
yeah. Yeah.
It
Makes
really
sense.
applies the right kind of friction, and it also helps you understand the messaging that is going to reflect in what closes. So we
Yeah.
had multiple different hooks, and we would test out hook and body and CTA, and let's see which one works. You know, Body and CTA would be the same, but if we tested out a hook which was reliability, and then we tested out a hook which was customer service, the reliability one would typically win out. So we know, okay,
Mm,
this is something that their ideal client profile is responding to. Let's keep making creative that speaks to that, because we know it's a
interesting.
reliable place.
Yeah, I love that, dude. You're basically saying, okay, we understand that this pain point specifically is really resonating. So let's not just leave it there. Let's try to expand on that, right? And expound that.
Exactly.
That's super
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of the sales team, I bet they're loving you because they're closing some deals. So I'm curious, and I know we started off the podcast talking about a 28x return, which is just absolutely insane. Like it's
Mhm.
it's unbelievable. And so what's kind of leading to that high return? Is it from what I understand, there's like a different kind of lifetime value or LTV for
Yeah.
this type of client. And so kind of speak to maybe how that works and how
Mhm.
like maybe the power behind like looking at the long term and not just
Mm.
necessarily like the money today, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally. So the 28x is on the LTV, so lifetime value of the contracts that their leads eventually, like, that you close on.
Yeah.
So, that could range. They usually do like 36-month contracts, for example. And,
Yeah.
I think the average LTV that we see of restaurants that close that end up using this POS system is around, $35,000. So that's $35,000 value across 36 months to use the POS at the start. If
Yeah.
things go well, and we've seen this happen, they start to increase their table turns, they start to
Mm,
increase their wait staff, and then all of a sudden, they're not just doing like dinners, they're also able to like facilitate lunch, which means
Yeah,
they can expand. And we've seen also restaurants that have been single location, been able to expand to a second location. Guess what? They're going to need a POS as well. That
for
includes
sure.
that is an ascension plan in a sense, from a sales
Yep.
perspective. So it's very much thinking about not just what are we bringing in now, it's what is the value of the client currently and how can we help them get to a higher value in that sense.
Yeah.
So 28x sounds crazy, especially in the high ticket game. And
Yeah.
I think anyone would like cutting your hand off to try and get that. So
Yeah.
there is definitely context there,
Yeah.
which is important to note. But in terms of the sales team, like yes, we have great conversations because wow, we've closed 6 this week and we
Yeah.
closed 0 in 2.5 years. That's that's quite a gap in
Yeah,
terms
it's
of
quite a big
performance.
difference. It's quite a big difference. It's like a shocking, just insane difference. Honestly,
Mhm,
it's super impressive, but it's super cool because I think for people listening here, there's different business types out there. Not everybody's selling the same exact type of thing, and I mean that sounds
mhm,
obvious, but what it means is that your approach to the marketing and the advertising can look a lot different based off of the lifetime value of your customer. Okay, so what I mean by that is if you're only focused on collecting money from your customer one time, and that's all that
mhm,
you're thinking about is I want to make this $5,000 sale or whatever. That's like not the right mindset because
mhm,
you if someone buys $5,000 from you and it's a great product and they love your community, they love what you teach, they trust you, why would they not want to invest further with you down the road, right? And I think that that's one way to think of it from that perspective. But then you've also got like software as a service companies. They come
mhm,
to us all the time and they're willing to either break even and in some scenarios lose money, like a loss leader on the
mhm,
front, because they understand, hey, look, we have a killer product, a killer software, and we know that, hey, we might lose money month one and month two, but on average, when people sign up for our software, they stay for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or whatever it might be, and they're thinking about the long game, right? They're thinking,
mhm.
hey, I might lose this money right now, but guess what? In 3 months, I'm profitable, and then every month after that, for the next 2 or 3 years, I'm making money on this new customer that came
And
in.
it
And
keeps
so
going up.
and it keeps going up, right? Yeah, exactly. Especially if that the like you said, like there's more locations for the restaurant that are expanding or whatever, right? Or maybe you have a
Mhm,
software where there's a usage amount, right? Like the more that you use the software, the higher the bill is, right, for the customer. And so
mhm,
it's really cool to um, approach your advertising from that angle of like, okay, let me not just think about the amount that this customer is going to pay me today, but what does it look like 2 years from now? And if
mhm,
I'm willing to maybe take a little bit of less money up front, or maybe not make as much profit up front, knowing that I have a great product and a great service that it's going to pan out in the end, that's what the
mhm.
big dogs do.
Yeah,
That's what the big players do. And so
exactly.
it's just cool. It's really, really cool to see people doing that.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that we can really take from that is, like, one, as someone, who is not as someone who's selling, I'm not selling, thankfully. I think I would be a terrible salesperson for what it's worth.
I don't think
But
so.
oh, okay. Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence.
People hear
But
that voice and they're like, "I'll take whatever this man is selling."
oh gosh, I hope that's not true. But the one thing I think that it really enforces is relationship,
Yeah,
and partnership.
yeah,
I think that we're in a very commoditized culture and a very commoditized marketplace. It can be very much that what can we get on the front end and what can
mm,
we like just like recoup now and sort of like push off, whatever happens down the road. It's okay, we've made money now.
yeah, yeah,
Something like this requires a relationship, and that's not just talking about the POS team and their clients, that's talking about us and our clients too. It's about
yeah,
like how do we manage a relationship, and secondly, how do we add value long term. And
right,
when you have to work with LTV rather than just like a big lump upfront high ticket kind of thing, you have to think through what is going to provide value, A, to get them to stay, but B, to increase their value as a company in that sense.
yep,
And, yes, it's a symbiotic relationship because as they get better, then they pay you more, and there's definitely a capitalist sense of this. But it takes effort to put in and get a good product, but also a good team that nurtures relationships and works alongside um, clients. So that's one thing I'll say for their sales team is they're excellent at relationship.
So
That's
good.
a huge takeaway that I've taken from like calls with their sales team, talking through not just how they interact with leads on the front end, but like long term, what they're doing with leads that have closed. It's not just like a break, like they purchase. It's not like Nike, you buy the
Yeah.
shoes and then you go run in them, and they hope never to hear from you. you know, Otherwise you're likely returning their product.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
not that way. It's so much more of like a relationship, and it builds that
Hmm.
trust, not just in the company, but the product too.
Yep.
And it just generates better use. And obviously, for us on the advertising side, that really helps us with our messaging and how we
Mm.
can position our clients well, not just as a product, but as a partnership.
Yep. Yep. Well said. Well said, Matthew. Okay, so to make this super actionable for anybody that's listening here,
Mm,
give us like a couple of step by steps that you did here, just really succinct to say, hey, look, here's what we did here. Maybe you guys could try this too, kind of a thing.
yeah. Okay. So I think the big thing is don't spend 340K and get no
Without
results.
making a
No,
sale.
number one,
All right,
don't do
sweet.
that.
Sweet.
Which is important because what you need to do is put KPIs in place,
Hmm.
and actually have like a performance benchmark that you need to be hitting before, either continuing to spend or pivoting spend or even, stopping spend. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Right.
But in this case, I would have advocated for them to, stop doing what they were doing when they'd spent $130,000 on one campaign and got no results from it. So
Yep.
having a really good sense of KPIs of what will work for your industry is going to be helpful, like to start with, and that's what helped us with our budget for sure.
Hmm.
Second is make sure you're putting leads in a place where they can take an action.
Yep.
And that's not just like talking about a website with a strong CTA, but it's providing value for them while they're waiting for a call. It's
Mm.
making sure that they are feeling taken care of. It's not being pushy in the process. I know their sales team, like some of them, I don't know if they've just got like the quickest hands in the West or something, but I've seen, contacts in their CRM and they've received a call before they've even been able to book one,
That's
and
awesome. It's so
it's that speed
legendary.
to lead is insane.
Whew.
Um, so yeah, that's definitely one is like get really good salespeople on your team is a big thing for sure.
Yep.
And then you'll be able to like bring them good leads and they'll be able to work them. So that's definitely another thing. But
Yep.
yeah, call to action on a landing page, call to action in the ad. Those ads without call to actions,
Yeah.
from the first step of them watching or seeing an ad to them booking a call or whatever, you need to make sure that everything is cohesive and
Mm.
very consistent. Not just that they understand what they're getting, but they can experience, I expected this, I received this, this lines up. And that presents your company in a really good position as well, especially when you're providing a service. So, like consistent messaging, definitely. And then thinking about what your lead actually needs and not what you think they need.
Mm.
So, positioning the ad and the copy in a way that provides value and provides answers to questions that they would have, and
So good.
meeting them where they're at and presenting from the very first point your product as the solution essentially, rather than creating more questions.
Great.
The messaging that we put up for the first few months was super direct and like just been like, hey, are you sick of when your POS like has a software crash in the middle of the rush on Friday evening? Like
Mm.
that's something that a lot of restaurant owners would probably either relate to or be like fear and loathe,
Yeah.
So meet
Yeah.
them where they're at, do your research in terms of, what the avatar that you're speaking to, the pain points, the audience research, that kind of stuff. But meet them where they're at, and provide value from that point on.
Dude,
And
that's so good.
up, yeah, that's probably the big three.
Dude, that's so good. Bro, I used to be a server at the Cheesecake Factory, and
That's right.
when the POS system would go down and we had to whip out like the little like dude, we had these like cards that we would have to fill out literally just with a pen, and it was like the most um it was it was almost like something that was like from Windows 98. You know, it was like this little card with these little check boxes and things on it that you had to fill out for the different orders and stuff. Because dude, the cheesecake menu was insane, and like oh dude, it was an absolute nightmare. And I remember like
Mhm.
it only happened like once or twice, but when it happened, like all the servers are looking around like, oh my gosh, there's like someone in here's got a bomb. You know what I mean? Like literally, like that was the look,
Mhm.
dude.
Yeah.
And so anyways, yeah, it's cool that I guess you can take a look at your client and who their target avatar is, and then understand deeply like, okay, what's the pain here, you know what I mean? What are they really going through? What are their fears or
Mhm.
their desires, right? And then I think
Mhm.
yeah dude, really really great work on that. So, and
Yeah.
great
I
great recap too.
I think like to sort of like put a bow on that point, especially there's something that I think you posted, or it might have been Dakota. I'm trying to remember, but so much of marketing is psychology. You know, it's
Mm,
understanding human behavior. It's
yes.
understanding how you can put yourself in the middle of problem and solution.
Yes.
And I feel like if you can effectively do that with who you're trying to advertise to, who you're trying to sell
Yeah.
to, that will always be the best plan of action.
Agreed. Agreed completely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you
Well,
did.
guys,
So
uh, you're like,
I
wait, dude,
quoted you.
you said that. You said that, not me. Um, well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to Ad Talk. I really, really, really appreciate it. I know Matthew does too. We want to keep bringing you value. So if there's anything you guys want to hear, let us know. Case studies like this, we feel like are just the best ways for us to share what's working right now. And while 28x return is not normal, it's not to be expected. It's not us saying, hey, come work at AdClass and you'll get a 28x return. It's just a really cool story that happened, and we wanted to share it. And if you do want thoughtful people behind your advertising, someone like Matthew who's going to think about your target customer and like what they are going through and how to write ads and build strategy in a funnel that speaks to that, then get connected with us. We'd love to hear from you. And again, thanks so much for being a listener. We love you guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Next time. Peace.
See you next time.